Guys, this is absolutely crazy. Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. Time is but a window. CS Legacy is a game built from the ground up in memory of Counter-Strike 1.6. It uses the 2013 Source SDK and all original assets, which should mean that it should be allowed by Valve. This is very different than what Valve canceled earlier this year called CS Classic Offensive, which was a mod of Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Now, while this project was originally greenlit by Valve earlier this year, a cease and desist order was sent out. Now, everyone has their own theories why this was the case. Most people said that this project used illegal Valve code. Now, I have no idea if this is true, but this project was eventually leaked, and you can check it out yourself. Regardless, this does not appear to be the case with CS Legacy, which also seems to have just been told the exact same thing. Here's what the update says by the project devs. Sorry about the long silence recently. We wanted to be transparent about the situation we're facing. We've received a message from Valve employees suggesting that the usage of the Counter-Strike IP might no longer be allowed without a separate, dedicated license, which could impact their ability to release CS Legacy as a CS 1.6 remake. If this turns out to be true, they would have to evolve the project into its own IP, moving away from Counter-Strike onto a different game engine. Now, they went on to say that this caught them off guard since CS Legacy is fully aligned with the Source SDK's license and their Steamwork guidelines, which specifically allows the use of Valve's IPs under the following conditions: using their SDK and releasing for free. Now, they are hoping this is just a misunderstanding, but seeing what Valve did to CSCO, this is probably not. So they went on to say, we received no further replies from this Valve employee after we clarified in detail what CS Legacy is. A project in line with their own current Source SDK license, just like CS Pro Mod was. If you guys don't remember, CS Pro Mod came out during the Source days. It's a very long time ago. They go on to say, however, this could also suggest a recent internal shift in how Valve interprets their existing SDK license and projects around the CS IP. They've reached out to Valve's legal team to make sure they get a clear official stance on this specific matter. They also made sure to tell Valve that they were and still are ready to make any modification, adaptations, or restrictions to their project that they see fit. Now, the developers here do have a Patreon that you can donate to get early information on the project. But because of the uncertainty of the project, they are giving refunds right now. Now, from the beginning, they have talked about how they've been prepared for situations like this. Full compliance with Valve's Source SDK license, SteamTOS, and Steamwork guidelines. Full ownership of assets, code, UI, and art directions so that the project could evolve into its own IP if needed. They go on to say, even if we were confident the project would release without issues, given their past experience with CS Pro Mod, they never ruled out this scenario and had prepared for it. That's why they made sure to fully own their game's content and design from day one, so that they could transition at any point if this scenario were to happen. Then they go on to talk about what happens if they get confirmation that CS Legacy is no longer allowed to be developed on the 2013 SDK, that it would need a separate license, and if Valve refused to grant it to them. If this were the case, they would be ready and will pivot development to their own game, their own IP, on a different game engine and away from the CS IP. The two game engines that they're considering are Godot and Unreal Engine. I believe that's how you say it. Godot, Godot, something like that. Now, with that being said, Godot kinda sucks. I looked at a few tech demos and wasn't really too impressed. I mean, search it up yourselves. I looked at a bunch of videos and these were the best ones I found. I don't know, maybe that's just because I was so blown away by how CS Legacy looked. Meanwhile, Unreal 5 has been known to look pretty amazing. So here's what they plan to do next. For now, however, they're going to keep working on CS Legacy. Their next development milestone is to submit their current game build of CS Legacy through Steamworks. They plan to do this next week. They might need to push the early access back to 2026. But in case of a negative answer, they will continue development on their own IP instead. Which brings us to, what could we expect if they make their own IP? The core game feel would be fun, skillful, fluid Quake-style movement, tight gunplay, and strong wall bangs, all of which make old-school shooters feel so good. Creating a fun and fresh community-driven competitive FPS that feels like home. Community-centered modding tools, level editors, scripting, server hosting. A strong, unique 90s action movie visual identity and lore, death animations, explosions, firing, and movement would remain absolute cinema. Over the top and extremely satisfying and addicting. Performant, a smooth gaming experience that does not rely on temporal smoothing, janky upscalers, or anything that hinders game feel and responsiveness. I want to say this all sounds great, but really it just sounds disappointing. Why wouldn't they just be able to keep the mechanics from Counter-Strike 1.6, reskin it, and call it its own thing? I only say this because I have played games very similar to Counter-Strike in the past. Here we have a game called Ava, Alliance of Valiant Arms. Even though the spectator camera does only show it in third person, it is a first-person shooter that has sniper rifles, submachine guns, pistols, smokes, nades, flashes, and you have to plant the bomb or defuse it. Another game that comes to mind is Black Squad. There's a lot of games out there that have a lot of similarities to Counter-Strike, so I don't see why CS Legacy couldn't just drop the CS part of Legacy. Keep the guns, the mechanics, the movement, but change the models and probably the maps. You know, with the exception of Dust 2, because Dust 2 is in every game. Speaking of that, with this post, they have released a little update on CS Legacy. Here you can see they've been hard at work on DDoS 2. This is terrorist spawn, which is exciting because it looks like you can look straight down mid and pick double doors from on top again. You know, just like it was in Counter-Strike 1.6 and really all the way until CS2. Well, technically they did the update towards the end of CSGO. Here you can see outside of long doors on the terrorist side. Honestly, it's a really faithful recreation of Counter-Strike 1.6. I can't even begin to describe how sad I'd be if they actually do end up having to cancel this. This project has gotten me more excited about Counter-Strike than anything else has in years. And here you can see A long from the terrorist side. I hope Valve changes their mind and allows them to release this. I think this game would be perfect for those old school players who never really settled in with the movement of CSGO and CS2. I think a lot of old school players feel like the 8080 spam fest of CSGO and CS2 is just not as much fun as the more tactical movement style of 1.6. But I think Valve is doing this because of their own self-interest. They have a very big cash cow right now and they do not want to split up the community. This is the entire reason that CS Pro Mod was created in the first place. The community had split up between 3 different games. Keep in mind, CSCZ and CS Source were released within a year of each other. This cut the player base into thirds, and that slowly dissipated with time. By the time CSGO was announced, Counter-Strike 1.6, CZ, and Counter-Strike Source all had player counts between 20,000 and 50,000. Those would be the 24-hour peaks, which means there was very little money in the game, very few competitions, and since there was no skins, Valve was making practically nothing. So it would not be an overstatement to say they are scared of finding themselves in that scenario once again. But keep in mind, the player numbers now are far higher than even Counter-Strike 1.6's players numbers were at its peak, which was something like 500,000 players peak and a 24-hour period before Source and CZ were released. Still though, I am personally dying for a release of a game that brings back the old school mechanics of Counter-Strike 1.6 and Source. The slower deceleration speed to get rid of the AD-AD spam, which in turn force people to perfect their peaks. The more randomized spray patterns, which force people to be more precise and aim for those headshots because they couldn't rely on spraying people down. The removal of Molotovs, and a ton of other differences from legacy Counter-Strike. Right now we are in a time when all these other companies are making remakes and remasters, and it would be great to have a remake of Counter-Strike 1.6. Right now we are in a time when all these other companies are making remakes and remasters, and it would be great to have a remake of Counter-Strike 1.6. But that's it for now, and if I find anything new out, I will let you guys know, so please subscribe if you want to get updates. Also, if you'd like to help me out, I just wrote a novel. You can get it in the description below. Please check it out. It's fictional, it's about Counter-Strike, and it's a lot of fun. I hope you all have a great day.